When artificial intelligence learns sexism. Fundamentally speaking, those prejudices that are unintentionally picked up by machines are all in the form of gender stereotypes, and they exist around us for a long time, and we need to maintain an attitude of scrutiny. Why does this artificial intelligence (AI) for image recognition always regard men as women? When Zhao Jiyu discovered this problem, he was ready to start his first independent research. At that time, she had just joined the PhD in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Virginia in the field of artificial intelligence machine learning. Her mentor, Vicente Ordóñez, threw her a subject that seemed a little weird at first glance. Facial recognition is actually not difficult this year. It is not a century problem to distinguish men and women. The accuracy rate should be very high. Of course, the AI task that Zhao Jiyu is at hand is a little more difficult, not to distinguish the ID photos, but to identify the complex life photos of the scene, but even the small program in the camera can find the face in the picture extremely accurately. Focusing a little more background can be a problem for AI. However, it is precisely these backgrounds that have distorted AI's cognition in an unreasonable way. Zhao Jiyu found that the pictures of men regarded as women have something in common: they are all standing in the kitchen or doing housework. She soon realized that this was not a bug in the program, nor was it a recognition algorithm or feature extraction, but that artificial intelligence always connected women with certain specific elements and was taken away by these elements when making judgments. In other words, this is an AI that is sexist. It thinks that the one who is standing in the kitchen should be a woman. How did such discrimination arise? It's also very simple. If you grow up in a society where men are outside and women are inside, then you will naturally think that women should do housework. The same is true for AI, but its way of knowing the world is also a source of discrimination. It is its teaching material, a database used to train artificial intelligence for image recognition. Prejudice about gender is not only ubiquitous in the database, but also amplified by artificial intelligence. Why does this happen? How to deal with it? Zhao Jiyu and the team wrote a paper on these two issues. Man Also Loves Shopping, Using Corpus-Level Restrictions to Reduce Gender Bias, won the Best Long Paper Award at the 2017 Annual Conference of Natural Language Processing. The field is beginning to realize this problem gradually. Where does the database deviation come from? Jiji Zhao and the laboratory team selected two representative image training data sets. One is IMC2 developed by the University of Washington, and the other is MSCOCO supported by large companies such as Microsoft and Facebook. Each data set contains more than 100,000 images. They found that some tags and gender binding are very prominent. For example, those who stand in the kitchen, do housework, and take care of children are considered women, and those who hold meetings, work, and sports are men. A single picture looks normal, but a large number of such photos have accumulated prejudice visible to the naked eye. There are more than 45% of verbs and 37% of nouns, which will show a gender ratio deviation of more than 2:1. Sexism is only one aspect of prejudice. A Indian wedding dress from Hyderabad, India, in the eyes of artificial intelligence in image recognition, became the chain mail of medieval Europe. Why? Because the wedding dress is a white Western-style wedding dress in the concept of AI, it does not understand the culture of the Third World. This is a research object of Shreya Shankar, a member of Google Brain Lab and Stanford University. The most well-known image recognition training data set, Google ImageNet, with more than 1.2 million images. She found that the artificial intelligence trained with ImageNet also recognizes images with wedding dress elements. The accuracy and confidence of images from the United States and Australia are very high. Most pictures can be confident and correct by the machine. The answer, however, pictures from Pakistan and Ethiopia do not have this treatment. When recognizing image content in the United States and the Third World, artificial intelligence is always selectively blind. Shankar used location tags to classify these data, and found that 45% of the ImageNet images came from the United States, and more than 60% came from the top 6 European and American countries. While China and India add up to 1/3 of the world's population, they only have 3% of the data in the data set. When AI trained under such a dataset is faced with a task from the third world, it is as though Lu's grandma entered the Grand View Garden. All eyes are rare. The deviation of the dataset has been accumulated in the process of formation. The purpose of the dataset is to train the machine for image recognition. For example, the ImageNet image is expanded around more than 1,000 categories, and each image has a category label. But the images selected for each label will unintentionally reflect the stereotype of the Internet. Zhao Jiyu told me that most of the pictures in the database come from the search engine, and then manually tag these pictures, and what is in the label, such as a picture of a banana, then there will be fruits, food, bananas, etc. in the tag text. The reason for this is easy to understand. The program cannot directly perceive real things, and can only see ready-made digital images. The Internet search engine should be the most unbiased and honest source of images. But the honesty embodied in the search engine is shocking. For example, when searching for "black girl" on Google, most of the first screens are pornographic images. Later Google fixed this problem. Harvard Computer Department professor LaTanya Sweeney found that when searching for a typical black name on a search engine, the search engine will have a probability of more than 80% to provide the words "arrest" and "crime" in the search suggestions, but not less than 30% of ethnic characteristics. In the final analysis, the search engine does not respond to reality, but its users' understanding of reality. These understandings of race and gender are inevitably inherently debatable. You think you are inputting "black," but the content is "black criminals." There is no such thing as fairness in mathematics, said Joanna Bryson, a professor in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Bath in the UK. Prejudice is just the regularity that machines pick from data. In the category of intelligence and machine learning, prejudice is not a vocabulary with value judgments. However, the situation is different when it comes to real-world applications. Today's machines, of course, do not have the ability to experience emotions or intentionally impose prejudices, but only honestly reflect the real prejudice in the database and even in society, and these reflections are sometimes not what we want. The more critical issue is that existing machine training methods are likely to magnify these prejudices and discrimination. How does the machine amplify the database bias? You may have this experience. Just bought 5 kilograms of laundry detergent on the shopping website. The recommendation algorithm is in the sidebar of "you may like," and recommend you 25 brands of other laundry detergents from 8 brands. This is the iOpena laundry. The recommended algorithm for large-scale commercial applications is not smart, but it may have its own difficulties. But even the top technology in academia cannot escape a similar pit. The algorithm seems to care too much about your input and takes the original data too seriously. If the data quality is very high, it is naturally not a problem, but now that the original data has a bias, the algorithm will further enlarge it. The artificial intelligence trained by the team of Zhao Jiyu using the MSCOCO and IMC2 datasets will show a greater deviation than the dataset itself when predicting general pictures. For example, in the IMC2 dataset, Xiaxia and women the frequency is 66%, and men are 33%. However, the artificial intelligence trained by this dataset predicts that the ratio of cooking to women is enlarged to 84%, and men are only 16%. Why? The algorithm model used in her research, on the one hand, directly extracts the element labels in the image by recognizing the characteristics of the image. On the other hand, it will determine which element has the highest probability of occurrence according to the relationship between the labels, which is also large information, a very common idea in the amount of image recognition. The problem is that if you want to recognize through existing connections, then the machine may exaggerate the existing connections during training, so that in the case of not so sure, give up more likely to be near the correct answer. The result of Zhao Jiyu gave me an analogy. When the algorithm is judged only by the features in the image, the prediction given is that 50% of the pictures are male, but also 50% are female. But in the database that trained it, 90% of the pictures link women to the kitchen. After synthesizing the image features and contacting the two aspects of information, the machine will conclude that the pictures are women. Quote, "Another error that machines are prone to make is to treat the features of most data as general features. The database trained with ImageNet above is likely to make the mistake of the United States plus Europe is the world. This will be very detrimental to the few in the data. If you let the AI judge whether a person is a man or a woman, the database used to train this AI has 98% of men and only 2% of women. Even if the trained AI can recognize all men, regardless of the 2% of women, it can have 98% accuracy. But those 2% of women are no longer relevant to the machine. And if you just focus on training regardless of the actual situation, to what extent can the existing database deviation be exaggerated? Two scholars from MIT and Carnegie Mellon University trained an AI that can recognize pictures from different databases through different database styles and content. For example, cars in Caltech 101 are horizontal, and MSRC is often a wide lawn there is an object on it. This means that even a little bit of prejudice in a database will be faithfully reflected by the algorithm and exaggerated to the general situation. AI trained with Caltech 101 must think that most of the cars in the world are the horizontal one as normal. This is called overfitting in the technical field and is largely related to the training method of artificial intelligence. Researchers at MIT and Carnegie Mellon believe that current image recognition developers often fall into the trap of blindly pursuing accuracy. The accuracy of a trained model on a certain database can be very high, thus gives the illusion of "my AI is very good," but in reality it will inevitably be deflated. This is like I was blind and happened to be a big fan of the large Japanese idol group AKB48. I know hundreds of girls in it. But putting me in the general crowd, I blackened my eyes again, and had to smile strangely at the people I had just met. For a long time in the young girl, the recognition ability of the elderly and men has decreased. It is true that in the process of AI training, data can be said to be the most important part. But data is not omnipotent, and insight into data is equally critical. Mining and insight into human nature from a large amount of data, this is the interest of Zhao Jiaya's tutor AutoNets. Only in this way can the machine's ability to work in human society be fundamentally improved. People may be the biggest limitation of the machine. The informatization of society and the rapid development of the internet have brought us massive amounts of data. What you want and unexpected are clearly controlled by the machine. When you open the social networking site, the machine will push the right advertisement in front of you, just because you searched for the product information on Google the day before. Uploading photos to Facebook, you and your friends will be automatically tagged, only because the facial recognition algorithm has already quietly scanned every photo of you. However, there are always various limitations for data mining and understanding. Machine errors, discrimination, and prejudice also come from people who are lack of roots. Technicians have a large amount of data, and use the powerful computing power of the machine to tune out delicate algorithms, but they are concerned about the data and the society behind it. Reality lacks consideration. Shankar gave a ridiculous example. A professor at her Stanford computer department developed an artificial intelligence that claimed to be able to identify homosexuality through facial features. The news came out and there was an uproar in the society. And no matter how convenient this algorithm is, if it is put into reality, it will provide discrimination and prejudice. The point is this artificial intelligence really established in reality? The data used by this professor comes from people who came out publicly in the survey, and a large number of homosexuals did not disclose their sexuality at all. Shankar wrote in a blog post, "If you want to identify whether a person is really homosexual in the biological sense, and this algorithm doesn't make any sense." Quote. Another example is that a medical team uses AI to assist in diagnosing blood samples from patients. This is arguably one of the most promising directions for artificial intelligence, but it turns out that the number of positive AI diagnosis results is far beyond expectations. Is it true that everyone is sick? The results are ridiculous. The database uses blood from healthy volunteers as controls, but these volunteers are almost all young college students, and the patients in the hospital are obviously older. Finally, artificial intelligence treats old blood as diseased blood. Such mistakes can be made by humans, but can be corrected by taking only a few courses in medical statistics. Teaching AI to understand this kind of deviation seems to be out of sight. This is just a problem in the academic field. In reality, there are more tricky things about databases. In the field of machine learning research, the database is still relatively clean. A friend who worked in the field of artificial intelligence told me, all kinds of data are more ideal, such as the label of the picture classification, etc., are relatively standardized. However, many of the data collected in the commercial field are very sloppy, and the trained algorithms are also very problematic. Commercial companies either purchase expensive databases or spend a lot of manpower to manually label. From this perspective, behind artificial intelligence, it is actually not intelligent at all. Garbage in, garbage out, garbage in, garbage out is the industry's vomiting for bad intelligence trained on bad databases, many times, even self-deprecating. What kind of database are used by these artificial intelligence entering commercial applications? Will the bias in the database affect the judgment of artificial intelligence? How does the database collect data and how to mark existing prejudices? Is there an industry standard? The society lacks corresponding investigations, and there are a lot of opaque situations in machine learning itself. Especially under the development trend of unsupervised learning, of neural networks, even developers themselves do not know what their AI is doing. We don't know if an intelligence that screens resumes will throw female resumes into the trash, whether the artificial intelligence that scores a person's loan credit will consider birthplace as a black history. As a woman who hopes to develop in the computer field, Zhao Jiyu will also worry about such problems. If you use the admission data of the computer department of the past years to train an artificial intelligence, she said, then the machine will definitely get the result that women can't become excellent computer engineers. This is very unfair to female engineers. The embarrassment faced by ethnic minorities and minority groups is just like the Hyderabad wedding dress in Shankar's research. Artificial intelligence trained by the mainstream database, often blinding the minority situation. In reality, a large number of smart applications are born from the Bay Area. This is an extremely developed urban belt. Most of the developers are white, young and middle-aged men, and this small place is determining the artificial intelligence that serves the entire world. Data and algorithms. Internet practitioners in the north, northeast, south, and south of China are inevitably full of contempt for third and fourth tier cities and villages, and wishfully believe in the social laws of big cities. But the result is that those groups and regions that do not have the right to speak may be more marginalized in the future. This is not the result that the open and equal internet originally hoped for. Give the machine a fair future? There is no de facto technical neutrality. For machines, neutrality is dominant. Said Rune Nirrup, a professor at the University of Cambridge's Future Institute. Artificial intelligence cannot learn from the data what is fair and what is virtue, nor does it understand what is discrimination and what is ugly. After all, our current artificial intelligence is far from understanding abstraction. Machines that are blindly pursued by humans do not seem to make mistakes. This is because the machines are stable, and only abnormalities appear. But this kind of anomaly is actually stubbornly making mistakes. How to avoid it? This is also similar to human education. Provide better teaching materials, or teachers need to pay special attention to teaching methods. There is no doubt that we need a better database with as little bias as possible. However, it is very difficult and costly to obtain a comprehensive database without deviations, and then the technical personnel training artificial intelligence can understand the possible deviations. It is also necessary to use technical methods to adjust and bridge this deviation. The research Zhao Jiyu is doing is how to adjust the deviation. The algorithm she designed will measure the gender and bias of the database and use it to correct the identified prediction results. With the help of this correction algorithm, the gender recognition bias of the machine has been reduced by more than 40%. In the research of correction, Zhao Jiyu also slowly grasped the connection between a technician and social justice. She believes that she is not the kind of young people who actively participate in political issues on social networks, but will pay more attention to the minorities in the data in the technical field, thinking about whether they have the same treatment of data and algorithms. Your algorithm performs well, is it because the dominant group is strong? Are the disadvantaged groups considered in your algorithm? Zhao Jiyu said. Fundamentally speaking, all the prejudices that are unintentionally picked up by the machine are in the form of gender stereotypes, and they exist around us for a long time, and we need to maintain an attitude of review. As a woman engaged in artificial intelligence research, even if she has entered the field of the top academic institutions for further studies, she will still face the surprised eyes of others. I often hear people say, "Girls learn computer science, it must be very hard." Zhao Jiyu said to me. These unintentional, even praise words, made me feel wrong. Everyone is the same. Indeed, we need to tirelessly tell the machine, or perhaps we need to tirelessly tell ourselves.